Voting rights going nowhere in the Senate. Deep distrust on COVID still rampant 2 years into the pandemic. From the highest levels of government to towns across the country, Americans can't seem to agree on basic truths. What is this division doing to us? Here to discuss now, presidential historian Jon Meacham and Bishop Michael Curry. They spoke together just a little while ago at an event hosted by the Vanderbilt Project on Unity and American Democracy about how religion and politics intersect in the U.S. And now we're gonna have that discussion. It's so good to see both of you. Thank you for joining. Jon, America's so divided. There's a lot of anger out there. Our political party seems to be abandoning democracy. What's happened to the sense of cohesiveness Americans have felt as a country, and what is all this division doing to our democracy?
Well, you know, the forces that are buffeting us now are perennial. They ebb and they flow. The task of a mature democracy is to make those forces ebb more than they flow. And democracy is fundamentally a human enterprise. And as human beings, and I don't want to drag the bishop into this, but we're fallen, frail, and fallible. And I think that every day is a struggle between our better angels and our worst instincts. And if I get it right 51% of the time, that's a heck of a good day. Yeah. And I don't have many of those. And the country is in fact, and I want some absolution because here I am with my prelate and spiritual lord. In the event, if you're feeling forgiving, Your Grace, I'm ready.
Yes.
A democracy is the manifestation of our habits of heart and mind. And that is at once terrifying, because it means we're all accountable, but it's also kind of thrilling because it means that we can make a difference. And I think we have to instill, I'm not going to say recover, I'm going to say I think we have to instill and, as Reverend King just said, activate this sense that we have to see each other as neighbors and not as adversaries, and think about how we want the future to think about us.
So you said something that was, I wanted you to be hopeful, but you said they're perennial. Did you say the forces are perennial? Because is this, so no. Do you don't think this is an outlier in our history? Or does it just feel that way now?
No, this is real. This is real. The subversion of democracy, the attempt to take elections that by all authoritative sources are full and free and fair, that is putting the will to power at the center of our public enterprise. Yeah. And the whole point of the Constitution, however imperfect it may be, was to check our appetites, because they figured that if we tried to do things, most of the time we would do them wrong. Mm-hmm. We would try to do wrong things. And so I do think, and I don't want us to act as though that there's going to be a happily ever after. There was never a once upon a time in American history. There's never going to be a happily ever after. This is a day-to-day, year-to-year, decade-to-decade struggle.
Bishop, he said the forces are real. There's not even a shared understanding of truth or shared set of values anymore. We see politicians who are gaslighting the public even when the stakes are life and death, people willing to put themselves and others in danger because they won't wear a mask or get a vaccine. People willing to overturn an election to, go after lawmakers, say they're going to hang the vice president. Is America facing a moral crisis?
Yes. America's facing a moral crisis, and much of our history has been a consistent facing of a moral crisis. And this particular moment is one, let there be no doubt, this is a dark moment. This very well may be, as Dr. King said a long time ago, this may be a midnight in the social order. And midnight is both the most dangerous time because it is darkest, and it is the time of potential hope because light has the potential of dawning. We are at midnight. We really are. There's no question about that. And yet, the result of that will be determined by our actions and our willingness, I would claim, to affirm the high ideals and principles that are part of who we are. And I believe, I'm not an optimist, I believe that the vast majority of Americans truly believe in the highest ideals. There is more good among us, there are more ideals that we share among us, but unfortunately, and I hate to use the phrase, there is a silent majority that is too silent, that is too quiet. There is a decent majority that is too quiet and too silent, and we must activate that silent majority, the better angels of our nature. And I think the more we do that, then we have the capacity and the potential to turn midnight not into our darkest hour, but maybe into, I pray, our finest hour.
Okay, so but how do you do that? Because then you have, I mean, listen, I think, historically the right, the religious right you had, right? They were the party of morals and religion and God and so forth, moral values, right? And they believe that they're acting upon that even though they're doing the exact opposite. So there's some sort of confusion. I'm not sure what is, or some sort of co-opting. I have no idea what's going on. Are religious leaders, in your opinion, doing enough to cut through the noise, call out the ideas or behaviors that is destructive or dangerous?
I think on the one hand, many of us as religious leaders are not doing enough, but on the other hand, we're not getting as much airtime either. And sometimes we have not been as smart at activating and getting airtime. One of the things we have to do, I think, as religious folk, is reclaim the deep values and ideals that are at the roots of many of our religious traditions. I speak as a Christian, and I can tell you as a Christian that when you read the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, when you read those four Gospels and look at the life and the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, you do not find hate, you do not find bigotry, you do not find narrow-mindedness. What you find is the parable of the Good Samaritan, one person from a very different culture and tribe and politic helping another one out because they're a child of God.
Can I stop you and ask you that? But do you think that is too esoteric, too high-minded?
No.
Do you think that religious leaders need to be a little bit more practical? Perhaps they should be in the pulpit saying, and I'm not obviously a preacher. I like to preach the gospel of the news and the facts. But perhaps they should be saying, if you believe in God and if you believe in what the tenets of the Bible and Christianity, then that doesn't mean that you should be taking part in insurrection. That doesn't mean that you should be listening to someone who's lying about a stolen election. Thou shalt not lie. That's part of something that that is real. You should not be taking part of that. Shouldn't religious leaders be saying that and talking about the parables and this, because maybe people aren't getting it through their thick skulls?
Don, you got to apply the parables, apply the scriptures, apply the teachings, not in a partisan way, but in a way that seeks to elevate us morally. Talk about the parable of the Good Samaritan, and then let's talk about law enforcement in our country. We want our police officers to be Good Samaritans. That's their job. You see what I'm saying?
I see.
Let's take the religious tradition and apply it, but let's reclaim the real essence of it. Let me just say, I believe we must reclaim the essence of the ideals of our tradition as Americans. This country has not always lived up to its ideals, but canon professor Jon Meacham will tell us that in the Declaration of Independence, in the Gettysburg Address, in King's I Have a Dream, and on and on and on, we have ideals that most of us will share. When we were kids in the second grade, we learned, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all.
You got it.
Yes. So that's a perfect segue to Jon Meacham here, because you helped to draft the speech that the president gave on the anniversary of January 6th, where he really took the gloves off, going after Trump, spreading the big lie. But some people worried that it was too tough, that it was only going to cause more polarization. Is that part of the price of telling the truth in 2022, Jon?
Well, the president speaks for the president. To answer your question for me, yes. In Greek, truth means unconcealed, right? It means it is something that you see that is real. And I don't think any of us are helping ourselves by pretending that this is an ordinary hour of crisis. I don't think, this is not Bob Dole and George Mitchell squaring off over a continuing resolution in 1986.
Right.
It's just not. I wish to hell it was. Sorry, Bishop. I wish it were. Whoops. I wish it were.
Yeah.
But I think that this is a stress test. Pick your metaphor. It's a crisis of citizenship, and we have to decide: are we going to put the will to power ahead of everything else? You know, the American covenant is fractured. And I hate having to say that, but a covenant is, in fact, this notion that I'm going to help you in the morning, not because I'm a good person, but because I might need you to help me in the afternoon.
Yep. Thank you
Right?
both. I'm just going to say, and let the church say, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Can I get an amen, John?
Always. Amen.
I really enjoyed
Episcopalians
this.
don't do it with quite as much passion.
Yeah,
as
I
pastors
noticed
should.
that because I'm a Southern Baptist. I went to the Baptist where we say, amen. All right.
Amen.
The doors of the church are open. Thank you very much. I appreciate both of you. If you want to hear more from these two gentlemen, you can find their conversation about politics and religion today online at vanderbilt.edu/unity. Vanderbilt.edu/unity. Thanks again. We'll be right back.